Yeah. Is that off mic? Sure. Okay, just if I need it, just yell at me. So. Hey, well, thanks for having me, you guys. Last night I was up at Tigers, and I had never lectured here before, and I saw that I was lecturing at a fairground. So I already had my fried butter and my fried Snickers. I just came in total preparation. But no, it's great to be here. And I know this is billed as an athlete talk, and I know I've got athletes in the audience because you guys are my bread and butter. This is a little bit more of a general talk, but I do cover and hit hard a lot of athlete stuff in here interspersed, so hang in there with this. But I think this entire talk is really applicable to anybody at any age, and kind of like what she was saying, I wish I had this information before I went to med school, and even when I was a competing kid in swimming internationally when I was 10, 11, 12 years old. I wish I had this information. We just didn't have it, and so that's why I'm passionate about this talk. And this is kind of a different talk. I've been lecturing over the last 12 years now about the topic of lifestyle and its connection to chronic disease conditions. And every couple of years I change up my lecture to stay current with current research. And this is a lecture I debuted a couple of years ago in Anaheim, and a lot of people liked it. And so I turned it into my permanent talk, and it's really my favorite talk. And I've entitled this talk Apple or Scalpel, the lifestyle disease connection, or stuff they don't teach you in med school. And it's been my experience over the last 10 or 11 years that there's just this huge disconnect between lifestyle, what we eat and how we move in all these chronic disease conditions, from cardiovascular disease to cancer. And particularly in medical school, as medical students, we're really not taught anything about prevention. We're taught about disease. And you look for a disease in somebody, and if you find it, you either cut it out or you treat it with drugs. And I spent many, many years doing that. There's a price for that. And while we have the best medical system in the entire world, I think you guys would agree with me that the medical system that we have is really a broken system. Right? It's really a system now that is designed to take care of you when you're really ill. And so the whole impetus behind this lecture is to empower you with the knowledge and hopefully the inspiration that you can take healthy back, that you can take charge of your health no matter what your health journey looks like, and that's what we're going to talk about here tonight. So the general outline we're going to follow in the next 55 minutes or so is that we're going to talk a little bit about chronic disease and its connection with lifestyle. And then I'm going to pivot and talk a lot about whole food supplementation tonight. And why, in particular, whole food supplementation I consider to be mandatory, that we should be supplementing our diets with whole food, concentrated fruit and veggie powders. And the reason for this is for a couple of things. Number one, the cornerstone of eating healthy, of course, is eating lots of fruits and veggies. The problem is we're not getting enough of those in our diet. That's been very well documented. So that's one reason. The other reason is that even if you're a vegan or you eat lots of fruits and veggies, there's a study that came out of Stanford about 2 years ago now that really proved that, the nutrient density of the produce that we're putting into our bodies is not what it was 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago. And their study was pretty comprehensive. Even with good crop rotation, we're losing a lot of the nutrients in the soil that is not then translated up into that fruit or veggie and then into our bodies. And so I consider whole food supplementation to be mandatory, and you'll find out why tonight. And we'll talk about the research behind that. And then I'm going to pivot to my favorite part of the lecture, which is the second half, which is I'm just going to relate to you just a few of literally the thousands of stories I've heard over the years of traveling internationally. What happens to people's bodies when they take care of them? What happens to people's bodies when you live a healthy lifestyle, when you exercise, when you eat properly, and then you add whole food concentrates to your body. And you guys, when you hear these stories, of which mine is one of them, you're going to be blown away by these stories. And I forgot to tell you guys, I don't know if I was scheduled to speak here a year ago, but I was supposed to be here a year ago, and I was not here because I had a severe athletic biking accident. And that is part of my story, and so you will find out why I am here and why I could have been here 3 months after that accident, but my doctor didn't want me to, so. But my story will be part of this, so I think you'll really like this. And I always start off by talking about the Okinawan population, because they're long considered to be some of the healthiest individuals in the world. They live an average lifespan of at least 81 years, and this study is now about 60 years, I believe, into the study. And what the researchers have found out is that only about 1/3 of their longevity can be attributed to their genetics or their genes, okay? But it's their healthy lifestyle that accounts for about 2/3 of their life expectancy. The key to healthy aging is maintaining healthy lifelong weight through diet and exercise. But what I think is significant about this study is that it really does prove that our lifestyle can trump our genetic inheritance. You know, we don't have to be victims of the genes that we inherited from our parents and their parents and their parents. You know, simply by engaging in a healthy lifestyle, you can actually turn good genes on and bad genes off. And that's not only good just for you, but they've actually shown that you can pass those genetic traits up to 2 to 3 generations beyond you. Okay, so think about this, you know, particularly people who are in childbearing age, that simply by engaging in a healthy lifestyle today, you can potentially impact your family's past generations of chronic disease conditions, perhaps eradicating them, right, for your future family's generations to come. Right? I mean, just because great-grandma had breast cancer, and grandma had breast cancer, and mom had breast cancer, doesn't mean that you're destined to get that cancer. Okay, we know through the study of something called epigenetics that exercising and eating properly will turn good genes on and bad genes off. You know, you're hardwired to your DNA, right? You cannot change your DNA. But what you can change and what you have control over are the switches on the outside of your DNA that dictate whether that gene's going to get turned on or not. Okay, and you'll find out, and this is really important in this lecture, that is an important lifestyle modification that can have a huge impact on genomic expression. I'll bring up a little bit of research at the end for that. So we know that the 2 big pillars of health, we've heard about it for years, is exercising and eating properly. And when I talk about exercising, I'm just talking about movement, just walking. Because they have now found out that sedentary behavior is not good. These are stats that were compiled about 2-3 years ago, where they're finding out that individuals who sit 4 or more hours consecutively on a fairly regular basis, that is equivalent to the health detrimental effects of smoking a pack of cigarettes every day, believe it or not. You know, sedentary behavior is the new smoking or generational. It increases cardiovascular disease by 125%. And this is the scary thing, it increases risk from death from any cause by up to 50%. So movement is really key. And there was a huge Canadian study that was published a few years ago that really proved this point. This was a study that looked at lifestyle and its effect on breast cancer. And the researchers looked at, I think it was between 40 and 50 randomized controlled trial studies on this issue. And they looked at thousands of pages of data. And when they parsed through all the data, this is one of the biggest findings they found, was that of all the lifestyle factors, physical activity has the most robust effect on breast cancer outcomes, whether preventing breast cancer in the first place or preventing it from reoccurring if you've already had it. Okay, so there's a phrase that was coined by the American College of Sports Medicine called exercise is medicine. It's true. It really, really is absolutely true. Love this, right? You can't compete with what you eat. And I talk to a lot of athletes and they don't get the connection between this. I mean, they go and they work out for 2 or 3 hours and they go fuel their bodies at Taco Bell or something. Well, you guys have a burger joint. I've seen a couple. Burgerville or? Yeah. Is it good? Yeah. I'm looking at these guys over here, so. But if you go there all the time and fuel your body, it's really detrimental, honestly. You know, if you worked out and then you fuel your body with junk consistently, it really does set you back. It really does take away from the gains that you had in exercise performance and what you did in the gym. So eating properly is important to do. And what does that look like? Well, we've heard it for years, heard it from grandma and grandpa, and it's so true, fruits and veggies, okay? And this is the key. The more fruits and veggies you put into your body, not only the healthier you're going to be, but actually the better you're going to feel. I mean, that's really been proven out that you're actually going to feel better. You're going to have less inflammation. You're just going to have better vitality, and that's true. And again, you know, I'm not here to say that everybody's got to be a vegan, right, and go eating bark off of trees all day, right? I don't do that, but I'm just saying the more plants you put in your body, the healthier you're going to be. And it's diets that are loaded up with plants combined with an exercise program that has a profound influence on a lot of the chronic disease conditions, you know, that you hear about, that you read about, that, you know, perhaps afflict you or your family members or people that you know. And I've highlighted some of these in red because they tend to be more popular. Perhaps you struggle, you know, people who struggle with things like asthma or cancer, your heart disease, diabetes, MS, your arthritis. Those diseases in red, but actually all those diseases have one common denominator that links them all together. And that's something called oxidative stress. So I want to explain what this is, because this ties into athletic performance and ties into just about everything that's kind of cutting edge stuff today in medicine. So what is oxidative stress? Well, we just start off by talking about oxygen, right? And similar to when you cut an apple in half and you leave that apple exposed to oxygen or room air, what happens to the apple over a period of time? Well, obviously it becomes brown. It becomes oxidized. It actually ages quicker. That's what's going on. Well, a parallel process is actually going on inside of our bodies as we take in oxygen. Well, we need oxygen. It can act as a double-edged sword in producing these things called free radicals. that can accelerate aging and can accelerate disease process and can impair athletic performance. Another way of looking at oxidative stress is comparing it to a car engine. You know, a car engine utilizes gasoline to combust and make a usable form of energy to make that car run. But out of that external combustion comes a toxic byproduct in the form of exhaust. Well, our body's engines are called mitochondria. And it's these ovoid organelles that exist inside the cells of our bodies. These are the powerhouses of our body. Okay, this is where energy from the food that you eat, combined with the oxygen that you breathe in, goes into making a usable form of energy to make your body run. That's something called ATP. But this is not an airtight process. And not all those molecules are utilized in the production of energy in the form of ATP. And so what happens is that you end up with this spillover effect of these highly charged reactive oxygen species, otherwise known as free radicals. And if these free radicals are not effectively neutralized, they very quickly escape from the mitochondria, and then they begin to do damage to our nearby healthy cells, silently, without you actually feeling it. It's been very well documented that free radicals can attack the membranes that surround our cells and tissues. Free radicals can attack the proteins inside our bodies, which is really key if you're an athlete. And I'll get to that here at the end. Free radicals can attack our DNA, our genetic material, and real importantly, whether you're just getting up and going to work, all the way up to the elite athlete, cumulatively over a period of time, if these free radicals are not effectively neutralized, they'll begin to attack the very mitochondria that form them. And the reason that's important is because mitochondria do not have the ability to effectively repair themselves from that kind of damage, similar to other cells inside our bodies. And so cumulative damage to your mitochondria will begin to shut down your mitochondria. And the reason that's important is because those are your energy producers. Right? And loss of energy production is going to affect you, again, whether you're just getting up and going to work, all the way up to the elite professional athlete. And this is a cumulative process. The research shows that that kind of damage can take years, if not decades, to actually manifest itself in actual disease processes. I mean, think about it. How many people do you know, right, that are too tired to perform even the most basic tasks of daily life? Okay. Perhaps you struggle, or you know people who struggle with getting through the day. You wake up at 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning with energy, and by 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, game over. And that doesn't have to be any of us by any stretch of the imagination. So neutralizing this byproduct of our daily metabolism is important to do so, and we can do so, because we all come equipped with. We are all born with this complex internal enzymatic and non-enzymatic cascade that acts as a frontline defense system in attempting to neutralize all these free radicals. Yeah, you guys did it too. I just have to tell you that this is like one of my favorite parts of the lecture, is me looking at you guys. Look at that smile. You can't see it, but I see it every time. There's a room full of blank stares. Trust me, I would have to go back to med school to remember all this stuff. But the reason why I put this up is that even though God gave us a system that attempts to neutralize these free radicals, the research is very clear that the system that we're born with cannot function by itself. That the system that we're born with will eventually fail, unless it's properly fortified. And we fortify the system that we're born with, well, it's through our diets. But it's specifically diets that are rich in fruits and veggies, and specifically the rainbow of colors. You know, the reds, the greens, the purples, the yellows. Because inside of those colorful pigments exist these very powerful plant chemicals called phytonutrients. And what I mean by phytonutrients is basically plant-based nutrition. You know, it's thousands and thousands of powerful antioxidant substances found in all the fruits and veggies, and this is the key. All those plant nutrients are working together synergistically in very small amounts to be extremely powerful in the human body. Okay, eat lots of fruits and veggies. The question is how many? Based on the most current epidemiological and observation studies, it's now recommended that we should be eating 7 to 13 servings of fruits and veggies every day, and a serving is roughly the size of your fist. And I scroll up that every day. Okay, that's just not a couple of days a week that you get that amount in your body. That is every single day for the rest of your life. And I had the talk that I was scheduled to do, but it got changed at the last minute. My athlete talk, I pulled some slides over because it's really pretty remarkable. When I was doing the research on this about 8 years ago. It's based on a formula. It's based on kilocalorie output and exercise, BMI, and a few other factors. But based on this formula, individuals who approximate 60 to 90 minutes or more of physical activity cumulatively within a 24-hour window, that's how many fruits and veggies you should be eating every single day. So if you're an athlete, that's what you should be eating. Okay. So good luck. Yeah, it's a lot of spinach. Amen to that one, brother. So the key is, and this, again, as an athlete speaking to other athletes, I didn't know any of this stuff, but I wish I had this information. But this is really important stuff to understand. So skip the 16 to 18, okay? Go back to the minimum that we should be getting. Do you or your families, or you guys, do you get 7 to 13 servings of fruits and veggies every single day? Are they picked vine ripened when they're the most nutrient dense? And are they in the rainbow of colors, the variety? You know, over the years of lecturing, I've spoken literally to probably thousands of vegans, thousands of vegetarians, thousands of people who juice, and that's all healthy living, right? But take, for instance, people who juice. While juicing is healthy, people who juice, though, typically juice the same 5, 6, 7, 8 things. Okay, what the researchers are now finding out that the quantity is important, but just as important as the quantity is the quality, is the rainbow of colors. The more variety, the better off your body is going to be. So unless you get that quality and that quantity in your diet every single day for almost every single one of us, you know what, there's going to exist some form of gap in our nutrition. And the traditional way that we've been bridging that nutritional gap has been through the consumption of all these synthetic, isolated, laboratory-made vitamins and our multivitamins that we see everywhere on counters today. But very clearly, over the last 6, 7, 8 years, multiple large-scale studies involving hundreds of thousands of participants, studies that were started 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago, looking at whether taking isolated vitamins would have an impact in reducing all these chronic disease conditions. Well, the data from those studies has just now started to roll in, and you know what? It's telling us quite a different story. In many instances, these isolated vitamins are having no effect on human physiology, and in some instances, they're actually doing more harm than good. It sounds counterintuitive, right? But it's true. These studies, the vitamin industry, which is a $70 billion industry, they've got their backs up against the wall because they did not predict these large-scale studies to be showing this stuff, okay? And in fact, neither the American Heart Association nor the American Institute for Cancer Research recommend vitamin supplements to reduce cardiovascular disease or cancer. But what they do recommend, it's right on our websites, eat more fruits and veggies. Because eating more fruits and veggies will potentially decrease your risk for cardiovascular disease. Eating more fruits and veggies will decrease your potential risk for eliminating cancer. That's the key. And, oh, I forgot about this. And this is kind of this is hot off the press. This is kind of the proverbial nail in the coffin on this subject. This was the largest study to date looking at multivitamin use and mineral use and its effect on cardiovascular disease. They looked at over 18 individual published studies, over 2 million participants followed for a minimum of 12 years. And when they looked at all this thousands of pages of data, this is now their conclusion, is that taking a multivitamin and mineral supplement doesn't prevent heart attacks, strokes, or cardiovascular death. And I can tell you the same thing is going to come down the pipe for cancer. Okay? It's not about vitamins. No. It's about plant material, about plant chemicals, which I'll talk about here in a second. So this is another athlete slide I pulled over, and I actually started talking about this about 12 years ago now, wow. When there's some really early pilot studies that came out, which typically are not well-designed studies, but it kind of raised a red flag. Well, this study was just published a few years ago. It was a large-scale, randomized, controlled, well-designed study where they're finding out that athletes that are taking these synthetic vitamins, you'll hear my story at the end, I used to be one of those. You know, athletes that are taking vitamin C, like Emergency, or other vitamin supplements, where they're now finding out that those synthetic vitamin supplements are mechanistically shutting down the adaptive health responses you should be getting from exercise, ultimately leading to a decrease in training efficiency. So vitamin supplementation is blunting the biological mechanisms that you get stronger when you exercise. Right? You get healthier, you get faster. They're actually blocking that. I didn't know that. And you'll hear my story at the end as it totally relates to that. But again, we didn't have these studies many, many years ago. So bottom line is nature knows best. You know, what we have in nature is far superior to any man-made vitamin supplement produced in laboratories today. So based on all the research that we know today, it makes a whole heck of a lot more sense to bridge the nutritional gap with whole raw food sources that contain your vitamins and minerals, but way beyond vitamins and minerals. You know, I thought for years, and this is what I thought in medical school, but a lot of people think, is that you eat fruits and veggies because you know they're healthy for you. But most people think it's because of the vitamins and minerals. No. That's a very small fraction of what makes you healthy when you eat a fruit or veggie. It's all of the other things that you get from the skin and the pulp and the rest of the fruit, and they're called plant chemicals. Carotenoids, polyphenols, flavonoids. Those are what confer health to your body, not vitamins and minerals. Okay? So it makes more sense to bridge the nutritional gap with whole Raw food sources that contain your vitamins and minerals, but way beyond those are the tens of thousands of plant chemicals that you do not get from a vitamin supplement or a multivitamin. Okay, that's key to health. So bridge the gap with food versus bridging the gap with what I call no food, which are these synthetic isolates that, short of a deficiency disease, our bodies simply don't know what to do with, other than excrete or store in fat if it's a fat-soluble vitamin. So just as a gym or a fitness facility provides equipment for us to get physically fit, there's a product on the market today that literally thousands of healthcare providers around the world recommend to get nutritionally fit. Well, what I like to see is getting fit at a cellular level, and the product that I've been taking, recommending for over a decade, is Juice Plus. And the reason for that, over any other nutritional supplement in the world on the market today, and why I prefer it is because of the research, and because I have a research background. It's the most thoroughly researched brand name nutritional product available today in the world, bar none. Okay, so let's talk about that science just a little bit here. And honestly, as a physician with a research background, this is really what sold me. This product is backed by years and years and years of independent third-party research, which means that the company provides the product to the research institution, and then they step back and they wait for the result of that study, either good or bad results. So the product is removed from the auspices of the potential bias of a company doing research on its own product, taken to a third-party institution to remove that inherent bias. And then when the study's done, it's submitted to peer-reviewed journals for publication. These journals have a peer-review board. I sat on one for a few years. They're typically made up of MDs, PhDs, and other scientists. And you basically scrutinize that study before you accept it for publication. You look at the methodology of the study. You look at the design of the study. And if it was done properly, you accept it and publish it in your journal. If not, you turf it back out to be redone properly. It's another layer of scrutiny the company puts the product through peer review screening. And a great majority of these studies that are accepted for publication adhere to what's called gold standard research, which is randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled studies. That's top-tier research. That's the kind of research that I look for in my medical journals for legitimacy. And I don't know about you guys, but the nutritional supplement industry, my gosh, it's like the wild, wild west. Every other day or week or month, there's a new nutritional supplement that you see on TV or hear on the radio or someone tells you about it. It's crazy. It's so unregulated out there. And because I've been doing this for so many years, people have gotten access to my Facebook account or texting me, and probably, I don't know, once every other month or so, I'll get a text or something from somebody somewhere in the world that has a new nutritional supplement that they want my opinion about. And today, because with the internet, it's easy. So you navigate to the websites of these nutritional supplement companies. And what are you looking for? Their research tab. I've been doing this a long time, you guys. You'd be amazed at how many nutritional supplements that are out there today on the market that have absolutely zero science. Okay, they got a whole boatload of testimonials, right? But absolutely no science to back up what their product is. I mean, you could be eating grass clippings from some guy's backyard. Okay, you wouldn't know. And the other issue is because a lot of companies that have research, it's easy for me to see because I have an eye, do a lot of really shoddy research. And there are some journals, not any of these, but there are some journals that you can actually pay your way or buy your way into getting published. You pay them money and they accept your publication. Okay, that is not legitimate research, and that's the fundamental difference between the research on this product and all the others on the market today. Because I'll tell you right now, no way in the world that you can buy your way into getting published in the top pediatric journal in this country. You cannot buy your way into getting published in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology. You cannot buy your way into getting published in the top sports medicine journal in this country. This company does top quality research at top quality institutions and deserves the right to be accepted for publication based on methodology, design, and results. Okay, big difference. So to date, the company now actually has 24 years of research, now 38 published studies, with many more in the pipeline. It's been studied in 8 countries and 4 continents around the world at institutions like Yale and Vanderbilt, Medical University Graz, MD Anderson Cancer Center, Merz Children's Clinic in Jacksonville. Okay, that's the other thing that got me about this product, because having a research background, I know these institutions. Okay, these are high quality, high-end research institutions doing high quality research on this product that is unheard of in the nutritional supplement industry. And so this is the journal umbrella under which all of the research falls. Multiple studies have shown that Juice Plus will reduce oxidative stress, will reduce inflammation, systemic inflammation, which we'll talk about here in these stories here in a minute. Supports a healthy immune system. The research shows it protects DNA, supports cardiovascular wellness, and supports healthy skin and gums. The reason why I put that big broad list up there is, you know what? There isn't a single pharmacy or drugstore that you can walk into and purchase something, nor is there a prescription that I or any other physician anywhere in the world that could write for you that in totality do every single one of those things that I just listed off to your body. It simply doesn't exist. If I could write a script for you, it'd be this right here. All right? Where the biggest side effect that you get from that prescription is good health. And I have to tell you, I told the folks last night, my wife and I were cleaning out our medicine cabinets a couple months ago. And I came across a refilled box of Zithromax, which is an antibiotic. That was 8 years old. That's the last time I got sick. And tonight you'll find out why. But it was interesting because it expired, but it still had the insert, the instruction pamphlet. And it's hilarious because it's about this big, tiny little thing. And you unfold it, and maybe this much is devoted to how to take it, all the instructions, and then you just let it fold up all the way to the ground. And what's the rest? Side effects, including death. Right? No kidding. No thanks. I'll take the preventative side first. And it's not to say you're not going to need an antibiotic someday, because I do every once in a while, maybe once every 10 years. But I'd rather do the preventative thing and allow my body to be stronger so that I don't get colds, even when I train really heavy. So it's 30 different fruits, veggies, and berries and capsules. And that's the rainbow I'm talking about. Do you get that amount? Do you get that quality in your body every single day? And yes, because it's in a capsule and it comes in a bottle, it's not a vitamin supplement. Okay, you do get most of your vitamins and minerals, but you're getting them from the plant source. But like I've already said, way beyond vitamins and minerals are the tens of thousands of plant chemicals that you get from eating things like bilberry and blackcurrant and elderberry. I was telling people last night, who goes around eating that stuff? Honestly, I don't know where to buy it. Okay? But they're loaded up with tens of thousands of plant chemicals and flavonoids and carotenoids that are so beneficial to human physiology. That's the health aspect for your body. Okay, that you will not get in a vitamin supplement. Okay, now because I cannot mention competing products in my lecture, I'll let you figure out who that is. So I was curious, this is about 10 years ago, 11 years ago, I came up with this slide, and it still is applicable today. I was curious as to what was in a popular children's vitamin supplement. And believe me, it's not easy to find the ingredients. Right? Navigate to the website. Right? You have to go past Wilma and Barney and Dino and Bam Bam and Pebbles. Thank you. I keep forgetting that one. But you guys, when you find out the ingredients, this is what we're giving our kids. Things that have multiple artificial sweeteners, multiple artificial colors and dyes, which they're now making a link to autistic spectrum disorder. Hydrogenated oils, which is weird. All those synthetic laboratory-made vitamins I was talking about, and a warning label.
Keep it away from children.
Right. Okay, however, so the company has chewables, not only for kids, but adults. In the chewables are fruits and veggies, but none of that other junk. Okay, no artificial sweeteners, colors, dyes, no hydrogenated oils, and you know what? There is a warning label on the back of the chewables. It says, keep out of reach of children so they don't eat the whole bag in one sitting. Okay, I want you to think about this for a minute. Those are Ziploc bags, not safety cap. Okay, think about that for a minute. A kid can sit down and eat an entire bag of those on the right, and they're not going to die. They'll be on the pot for a couple of weeks, but I hear these stories all the time. They get Johnny out of the bathroom for a couple of days, but he's really healthy. But remember, it's concentrated food, all right? However, and all joking aside, if your child does break into and eats just a fraction of that bottle on the left, oh, you get a big problem on your hands. You got to call poison control. Because if your child eats just a fraction, not the whole bottle, a fraction of that bottle, they can die. And as an ER doc, I can remember taking care of these kids. I can see them all the way across the ER. They get dragged into the pediatric room, number 16, I'll never forget it. You got to go into that room, you got to put a big old tube into their stomach, you got to pump a bunch of black charcoal into their stomach to bind up all those chemicals so they don't get absorbed into the body because they can die. And that's the fundamental difference between chemicals on the left and food on the right. What makes more sense for your body? Right? Okay, so that's yabba dabba don't versus yabba dabba do. And if you don't know who that guy is at this point, I cannot help you. So, sorry about that. So I want to talk about this just for a second. This is dovetails on this, but a rebranded name for the same program. This is a Healthy Starts for Families. This is actually now the largest children's observational study in the entire world. They've approached about 1 million subjects, close to 300,000 of which have finished the program. What it is that a child, anywhere from the age of 4 up to and through a full-time college student, can get Juice Plus for free for up to 4 years with an adult sponsor. You just fill out an occasional questionnaire. And the results that are coming back in the kids that have finished the program is amazing. You know, the kids that have finished the program are much healthier. They're not missing school. They're not getting sick, so they're not seeing their pediatrician. In fact, pediatric office, sometimes I've heard people tell me they call their house saying, hey, we haven't seen you guys in over a year. Is everything okay? It's like, yeah, we're just well. We're healthy. And the other thing that's really interesting that was not anticipated with the program, but they've now found, is that the kids who enter the program who are addicted to the sugary sweet stuff, well, they enter the program that way, but they exit the program not craving that anymore. In fact, what they found is that they exit the program craving more fruits and veggies, believe it or not. And so their bodies are being reprogrammed at a young age. What a great way to start travel, right? So if you're not familiar with this, get with the person who invited you, because it's a great program that companies put a lot of money into. Just a couple more products I'm going to tell you. We'll pivot into some of these stories. I do not have a slide for this guy over here, but this makes my slides look really bad. So this is the Tower Garden. I don't have a slide for this, but this is the most amazing. If you want to talk about healthy green produce, this is the way to get it. I mean, you go to Whole Foods or wherever, you can't find anything like this. Okay, so I don't have to talk to the person who invited you, but I don't have time to get into that slide, but that is amazing. We live in Phoenix, and our tower's just blowing up right now. I can't even keep up with what's on. But anyway, I want to talk about this. So this is a complete shake mix. This is a completely plant-based protein shake mix. The primary plant protein is non-GMO, non-genetically modified, water-washed, or low-processed soy. It's got lots of good fiber. You can see all that. It's gluten-free, low-fat, non-dairy, no coloring, preservatives, low glycemic, and 100% vegan. Now, when I mention the word soy, a lot of people's antennas go up, right? My doctor says I can't have that. My naturopath says it's like the power of the devil. Athletes are afraid they're going to grow man boobs by eating it. It's all complete lies. There's not a single ratchet of evidence for any of that. But in particular, really what it boils down to, because the isoflavones in soy have a very similar structure to human estrogen. And the concern is if you eat soy, it's going to be additive to human estrogen. Well, that is not true at all. I just did a Facebook Zoom, Juice Plus Facebook Zoom on this subject. It's about 15 minutes. I did it 3 weeks ago. It's got over 100,000 views now. It's really short, but I go into big time in depth, including stuff for athletes in there, so I don't have time to go into that tonight. But the big deal is that this is the largest study to date. All of the past history of soy was based on animal studies that were done 20, 30 years ago, without one well-designed human clinical trial to prove that soy is bad for humans. Well, this was a huge study where they harvested over 6,200 women from the Breast Cancer Family Registry, and they used top researchers, cancer researchers, from Tufts, Columbia, and Stanford Cancer Institute. When they parsed through tens of thousands of pages of data, this is now their new statement. This is hot off the press. We now have evidence that soy foods not only prevent breast cancer, okay, but also benefit women who have breast cancer. Therefore, we can recommend women to consume soy foods because of its many health benefits. Wow. What was I taught many years ago in med school and as a resident, as a physician? No soy for women who have a history of breast cancer or a family history. The data has changed, okay? The data has absolutely changed. And if it was ever a big issue, then why in the world MD Anderson Cancer Center, one of the leading cancer research institutions in the entire world, if they ever had an issue with a soy and a complete shake mix, then why in the world would they use the complete shake mix in a study of their ovarian cancer patients? Okay, that study has already been completed. The researchers at MD Anderson were so impressed with the health outcomes that they're actually now in a phase 2 second study of this particular group. So again, I'm not an expert at this, and I don't pretend to be an expert, but I listen to the experts. I keep up with the current research. I don't get my degree from Google University. right? Everybody goes to the internet, they become an expert,
Yeah.
right? Or Wikipedia or whatever. Talk to the researchers at Yale and MD Anderson and Vanderbilt. The people who are on the cutting edge, they know the current research. And besides, soy isoplavin is ubiquitous in about everything we eat. I mean, they're in apples and carrots and oats and flax and mint and coffee and, God forbid, bourbon, whiskey, and beer. So everybody just needs to take a deep breath and slow down, because a lot of that misinformation was based on animal studies many, many years ago. It was never substantiated with well-designed human-based clinical trials. So Juice Plus then bridges the gap, right? It bridges the gap between the reality of what we eat on a daily basis, whether that was good or not, and a more optimal amount of whole food-based nutrition that provides a rich pool of antioxidants and phytonutrients from which our bodies were designed and knows exactly what to do to contribute to ideal health. But what I think is great is this. For about the price of a cup of coffee, you get almost 50 different kinds of plants coursing through your veins every day. What's your health worth to you? Okay, for about the price of a cup of coffee, up to 50 different kinds of plants coursing through your veins every single day, making you healthy at a cellular level. And then before I turn to the story, I just want to mention this too. This is the latest product that was put on the market a little over 2 years ago. This is a completely plant-based omega supplement. Most of the omega supplements on the market today derive their polyunsaturated fatty acids, or omega-3s, from fish or krill. But fish or krill actually have to eat algae in order to make that conversion in their body. So companies like, skip the fish, we'll go straight to the source. So they harvest most of their polyunsaturated, particular 3s from algae, but they round out the rest of the spectrum, the 5, 6, 7, and 9 omegas, using the oils from cold-pressed seeds. Sea buckthorn, tomato, raspberry. And each of these omegas has a specific beneficial role in human physiology, in improving cognitive function, improving cardiovascular health, improving healthy skin and gums, decreasing inflammation, which is really huge. And so this is a great product. In fact, you'll hear my story here in a little bit at the end. This was an integral part of me healing from my bike accident. And they're going to be doing research on this product. They're just lining up the institutions. Like I said, it's only been out for a couple of years, but it's an absolutely amazing, powerful anti-inflammatory supplement. Okay. So this guy, I'm sorry he's not alive anymore. He's one of my favorite actors. This is one of my favorite movies. But what I want to do now is pivot and just relate some stories to you guys, and then we'll shut it down. The reason I put this up is that if you look at really well-designed, if you read really well-designed research papers, research studies that this company has, if you read them, they'll put you to sleep a million times. They're boring, right? It's all words. It's, p-value this, chi-square this, bar graph this, everything. It's boring. But when you can take that research and you can tie it into what happens to people's bodies when they put this whole food concentrated powders in their bodies, not only does that make the research come alive, but the research validates what happens to these people's bodies. So before I do that, I want to just mention this. This guy was obviously way ahead of his time. Let food be thy medicine, medicine be thy food. What you're about to hear in these stories is a food effect, not a drug effect. And Juice Plus is not a drug. It's not going to cure cancer and do all that fancy stuff. But when you see what happens to these people's bodies, when they put that whole concentrated whole food nutrition in there, it's absolutely amazing. So this is Shada. Shada is a pharmacist in the Tucson, Arizona area, and she for years suffered with debilitating foot pain, bilateral foot pain, to the point at which she would have to bring ice packs to work to stand on just to get through the day. And so I had a discussion with her and got access to her medical records. This was her medical treatment program when she had that foot pain from 2012 to 2015. During that period of time, she saw over 20 different healthcare providers. She had multiple differential diagnoses from lumbar, bulging disc, Lyme disease, adrenal fatigue, stress fractures. She had tens of thousands of dollars of diagnostic tests trying to figure out what was causing her foot pain. And then she had tens of thousands of dollars of prescription and non-prescription medications to try to get rid of her pain. And in fact, she sent me a picture of her closet, and this was her life for years, you guys. Splints, lotions, herbs, pills, you name it. And the mere suggestion to her treating physicians that concentrated fruits and veggies and capsules might harm her own body's ability to heal itself. What was meant with that? Right? And if you're a healthcare provider, I'm not knocking on you because I'm one too, but nutrition education that we get is a blip on the radar. The latest statistic that came out 2 years ago is less than 1% of 4 years of medical school education is devoted to nutrition. There's just not time. There's too much pathology that you have to learn. We knew better. I knew better, so we started Shada on Juice Plus. It was interesting because she started the latter half of July 2015. The beginning of that month, before she started, she actually had a routine blood draw that was done. And at that time, she was a diabetic. Her A1C was 6.6, and she had a pretty ugly lipid profile. Within 3 to 4 months of being on Juice Plus, she had another blood draw that was done, and those numbers actually started to improve. They started to correct themselves. But more than anything else, during that period of time, her doctors were slowly weaning her off of all the medications she was on, and by the end of October, the only thing she was supplementing with was Juice Plus. That was it. And again, I'm not here to tell you, throw down your crutches, you're healed, you can walk again, right? I'm not here to say that. But the medical system was just patching her up and not getting to the solution. The solution was in her. She had chronic systemic inflammation. She provided her body the nutrition to decrease inflammation. There wasn't a medication on the market today that could have done that for her. It was food. But again, her story, I've actually got 2 more studies I've added. Her study would be a mere testimonial if it wasn't backed by the science. And multiple studies have shown that Juice Plus will decrease inflammation compared to placebo group by decreasing inflammatory markers like monocyte chemotactic protein and macrophage inflammatory protein in rats, and the big daddies, tumor necrosis factor alpha and C-reactive protein. Okay, so these are hardcore laboratory values, inflammatory markers, that are effectively decreased in the Juice Plus group compared to placebo. So what happened to Shada wasn't in her head. What happened to Shada wasn't a placebo effect. What happened to Shada was backed by the science. And she's just one story. Okay, so this one's a little bit closer to home. So this is my oldest stepson, Grant, the guy in the yellow circle. And Grant was a pretty sick kid with asthma, reactive airway disease, to the point at which he was always on nebulizers and steroids, the usual routine, nebulizers, steroids, antibiotics. He was bouncing in and out of ERs constantly. My wife Heidi was having to go in to check on him at night sometimes to make sure he was still breathing. And so the medical system was basically patching him up, not getting to the answers. She was desperately looking for something natural that might harm his own body's ability to heal itself. So they were introduced to Juice Plus. She immediately put him on it. Within 8 weeks, 2 months, no longer needed steroids, no longer needed nebulizers, wasn't having to go back to the ER, just needed an occasional antibiotic if he had an ear infection or sore throat. Okay, and I can tell you, this is just one story. These children and adults that have asthma, allergies, you name it, their immune systems are all over the place. Up, down, up, down. And all you're doing, you're not revving up the immune system, you're not tearing it down, you're optimizing it. Okay, so that your B cells and your T cells and all your immune factors can communicate properly. And that's what happened to Grant. But again, Grant's story would be a testimonial, right? If it wasn't backed by the science. And again, multiple studies have shown that Juice Plus will optimize the immune system by increasing things like gamma delta T cells, which are fighter cells in your body, increasing natural killer cytotoxicity, and interleukin-2, decreasing tumor necrosis factor alpha. Again, these are hardcore laboratory values that are optimized in people who took Juice Plus compared to placebo. So what happened to Grant? Wasn't a fluke. I'll answer questions at the end. What happened to Grant wasn't a fluke, it wasn't a placebo. What happened to Grant was real. Okay, so Grant went on to swim at Arizona State, Division I school, did really well there, and just got his degree in physical therapy last year. He's now practicing in the Atlanta, Georgia area, and that makes every mama really happy. Okay, so before I go in to tell you my story as an athlete, I need to put this up because this is the latest, greatest study that actually ties in my entire talk. I've been waiting almost 7 years for this study. It was just recently published. It was studied out of Australia. I think there's an Australian here, isn't there? There you go, right there. I heard you earlier. This was a huge study. It was a randomized control trial. And what they found out was that compared to placebo, the Juice Plus group had a reduction in lipogenesis, which is cholesterol production, and another study that showed that it decreased inflammation. But what they did in this study that's never been done in another study to date was that the researchers looked at a snippet of these guys' DNA. And they looked at those switches, those epigenetic switches I talked about on the outside. On the outside, they looked at some of those switches, and they found out that compared to the placebo group, the Juice Plus group had a favorable modulation of over 1,600 of those epigenomes that had to do with cholesterol production, that had to do with inflammation. So think about this. Instead of having to take your Crestor for your hypercholesterolemia, How about turning off the genomic switch at a DNA level? Instead of having to take gobs of Advil or leave for inflammation, how about turning off the switch again at a DNA genomic level? Are we there yet? No. Will we ever get there? I don't know. But this is the first time anywhere in the world in a controlled study that fruits and veggies have ever been shown to modulate genomic expression. We've just known it's kind of been doing this from epidemiological studies. Never been shown before. First time ever. And what was interesting, this is true confession, so this particular research study was 43 pages long. Yep, I read the whole 43 pages and I fell asleep about 20 times. But what was really interesting, this is a snippet of some of those epigenomes. What was really interesting, the researchers were not looking for this, but some of these genomic switches that were being turned on and off had to do with cancer genes. Turning off oncogenes, turning on tumor suppressor genes. So remember I told you at the beginning, when I made the story about, the analogy of that great grandma had breast cancer. This is true expression of that. Okay, this shows you that you do have an element of control. That lifestyle really does have an impact on flipping these genes on and off. Okay? Again, like I said, you don't have to be victims of the genes that you got from your parents. Okay, so my story. This is my finish at the Alcatraz race. It's one of my first races I ever did as a triathlete. That was crazy to do that. But my story actually starts with the science. And that's just because I'm wired that way. And this study, I tell people, particularly the athletes that I talk to, I tell people that this was like the can opener for my brain and understanding how important this product was to exercise performance. And this study was so profound that it was accepted and published in the top sports medicine journal in this country when I get my mailbox every month, Medicine and Science and Sports and Exercise. And it was a cool study. It was a study that was actually done on the Austrian Special Forces Cobra unit, which is there over there. They're equivalent to our Navy SEALs. These are big, rough, bad, in a good way, physical specimens, these guys. And so basically it was a 7-month study they did on these athletes, and you guys need to listen to this. This was a huge, profound study. So it was a 7-month study they did on these athletes, exercising them periodically during the 7-month window. There were 2 groups in the study. One group of athletes that got the dummy pill placebo, which is depicted in the red bars, and the other group of athletes that took Juice Plus, depicted in the green bars. And what the researchers wanted to know was what kind of skeletal muscle protein damage or oxidation is occurring in these athletes' bodies as a function of them exercising during the 7-month window. And without going into great detail, what they found out from the beginning of the study at baseline to the final exercise session at 28 weeks was there was a significant accumulation of these oxidized or damaged proteins circulating around in these athletes' bodies that were not taking Juice Plus, they were taking the placebo. That's compared to the athletes that were taking Juice Plus, they didn't have any accumulation of those oxidized proteins in their bodies from all their training. So what does all that science mean for us? Just within the last 4 or 5 years, study after study after study is now making the link between this accumulation of these oxidized proteins in athletes' bodies to overtraining and overreaching syndromes. So you see an athlete, this could be a little Johnny going off to soccer, all the way up to the elite professional athlete, that start off a new season healthy. But as that season progresses and then training starts to get ramped up, they start to get more and more sore, more and more tired, more and more sick, more and more injured. Well, they're now making the link to this accumulation of these oxidized proteins in athletes' bodies, not only within a particular season, but carry over from one season to the next. Right? Who wants to end up like this? Okay, when you can get all the benefits of an exercise program and minimize the damaging effects of oxidative stress that can occur, this is the edge. When I talk to pro athletes, because all pro athletes want an edge, particular football players, this is the edge. Okay, and you'll hear my story as it relates to that. So this is my finish at the Ironman World Championships in Kona. And it took me 10 hours, 10 minutes, and 12 seconds. I'll never forget those 12 seconds as long as I live. It's long, non-stop day. But I want to just tell you my story, why I'm passionate about what I do, but why it's very different than what I was trained to do. I mentioned at the beginning of this talk that I was trained to look for and treat disease. I spent many, many years doing that. But now, I have spent over a decade on the other side of that wall called prevention. And it's amazing to me, I look back on all my years as a clinician, that so many of the diseases that I was treating and writing multiple prescriptions for were completely preventable by what we talked about tonight, lifestyle. I actually had a pretty good race. I finished the race, went upstairs in the hotel, showered, came downstairs, ate dinner, and then sat at the finishing line watching people finish the race. This is the one you see televised every year. NBC is there with got cameras and helicopters. It's pretty cool. And that wasn't to say that I wasn't sore or tired after that race, because I was. I mean, it's a long, non-stop day. But I felt distinctly different in this race versus the year before when I did Ironman Florida. And I had an absolutely miserable race at Ironman Florida. I was flat, fatigued, and tired going into race day itself, which I now know, based on a previous study, is because I had accumulated all those oxidized proteins in my body from all the voluminous training I was doing. I'd overtrained. I burned out. Subsequently, I had a miserable race for about 2 to 3 days after the race. I was so sore I could barely walk, and for probably about a month after the race, I was constantly sick. One cough, one cold, one upper respiratory infection. Basically, my body was trashed. And I hate to admit it, but at that time, I was taking up to 8 vitamin, mineral, and herbal supplements. You know, I had a concoction of pills and herbs and things I was putting into my body based on the testimonials, not the research, the testimonials of my training partners. Hey, if it's working for you, I'll take that too, down the hatch. I've done a lick of research. And based on some of the studies I presented to you guys tonight, they weren't good for me. They were working against my body. And the only thing I did differently from that race in Florida to this race a year later was that I was approached by a very attractive and intelligent woman who started engaging me in this conversation about oxidative stress that occurs when you exercise. I didn't know what that was. They don't teach doctors that stuff. But she was very insistent that I take these fruits and veggies and capsules. Now, if you're a healthcare provider, or you know healthcare providers, we are trained to be very skeptical people. I was a very skeptical person. So if you got dragged here tonight to hear this Harvard guy talking, you're skeptical. I know right where you are because I was there 12 years ago. I'm not there anymore. Yeah, I was very skeptical. You know, because what could fruits and veggies and capsules do for me that I wasn't already getting in a heavy plant-based diet? I was practically vegan. But I wanted to date her, so I took them. Yep, now we're married. And the reason why, now I speak to lots of doctors, I speak to lots of pro athletes, high-end athletes, and they can be too hard nuts to crack on this subject, and I get it. And I understand that. But it really was, honestly, difficult for me to kind of wrap my Ivy League doctor brain around something as simple as fruits and veggies and capsules. It wasn't complicated enough. You know, I could turn around a bottle of Juice Plus, and I could pronounce everything in it because it was food. But how could fruits and veggies and capsules be as powerful in the human body as some of the prescriptions I was writing for my patients? But honestly, I took them because I wanted to date her, so that really is the truth. And so I was training for Ironman Hawaii at the time. Has anybody done Ironman in here? Okay, so an Ironman's like a full-time job. I was averaging between 4 and 5 hours a day training. So I was taxing my body big time. And I started taking Juice Plus, and it wasn't right away. It was probably, I think, around two to 3 months into training for Hawaii that I did start to notice some subtle kind of anecdotal, testimonial things that were happening to my body that in all my years as a collegiate swimmer and triathlete I'd never noticed before. Since I was having a lot less muscle and joint pain, I was recovering a lot quicker between my training and racing sessions. And the other thing I noticed, I wasn't getting sick anymore. I just thought it was common for athletes that train hard to get a couple of colds a year. It wasn't happening anymore. And the interesting thing was, all my training partners were still suffering from that stuff. So I knew that Juice Plus was filling in the rainbow of colors. This is the key, the gaps that I wasn't already getting in a heavy plant-based diet. But being the ever skeptic that I was, I just thought what was going on was in my head. I thought it was a placebo effect. And that's when I decided to look at the research on the product. And at that time, I think there were like 15 to 18 studies, now there's over 35. But 2 of the studies on Juice Plus were published in my sports medicine journal. One I just put up to you, Medicine and Science in Sports and Exercise. The one I get in my mailbox. Are you kidding me? You know, they can study fruits and veggies in capsules with a placebo in humans, not rats, mice, or test tubes, using gold standard protocol, get those kinds of results and have them accepted and published in one of the top sports medicine journals in the world. Boom. Light bulb went off for me. It's never gone out. Okay, my whole story. And the reason why I wasn't here last year, but I'm here now. So my wife, Heidi, and I have literally probably logged in tens of thousands of miles on our bikes, training. And we've had accidents, but nothing too severe. So last March, a year ago, I took my mountain bike down, and there's a trail behind my house in Phoenix I go on a lot. And I was coming home. I was literally like 2 blocks from my house, neighborhood. I'm coming around the corner. I look up, and there's a big old truck that had cut that corner. I had nowhere to go but down. Landed square on my right hip, slid up under the truck, and got it stopped. Massive pain in my hip. Something bad happened. I called my wife, Heidi. She came and got me. I went to the hospital, got a CAT scan. And it wasn't the ball part, my hip. It was the socket part that it fits in. It's called the acetabulum. And I don't have the CAT scan to show you, and it's really hard to see on the CAT scan, but this is essentially what my acetabulum looked like, CAT scan. Roughly 30 to 32 fracture lines. And if you're a physician, they extended through the superior and the inferior rami, so I just trashed the whole thing. My orthopedic surgeon, true confession, now this is under the fog of morphine. I was telling everybody, I am going to heal so quickly from this, and I can tell you what, which probably was not a good idea, but I knew that I was going to heal faster than the average bear on this one. So my orthopedic surgeon came in, it was like 2 in the morning, and I was out of it, and he said, man, you are healthy, because in 30 years of practice, I've never seen anybody have that many fracture lines extending through both rami that haven't had those pieces have to separate in one way or another, where I have to actually go in and pin it. He goes, your bones are sticky, they're healthy. And I knew why. So that was good news, he said. But the bad news is that the extent of my injury, this is a 9 to 12 month recovery period with the assistance of a walker. Now I have to tell you guys that when I got clearance to go back and exercise at the gym, walking into the gym with your Iron Man hat, your cutoff t-shirt, shorts, tennis shoes, pushing a walker, boy, you got everybody looking at you. That is a showstopper. But anyway, so I was in the hospital for about 3 days, got out of the hospital, I came home, told my wife Heidi, I said, you know what, I know I'm going to heal quickly, but I'm not going to change anything that I have been doing over the years. I'm not going to put more plant matter into my body. This is what we've been doing for years, and that is taking 4 of each, including the omegas, and a shake every day. So I'm flooding my body with plants every day. Been doing that. I just want to know if what I was taking was going to be enough for me to heal quickly. And it wasn't 9 months, and it wasn't 12 months, because I'm here today. 3 months, you guys. 3 months. I was pain-free. I graduated from my walker. I was able to take my bike back out on that trail carefully. Much to the chagrin of my orthopedic surgeon.
Yeah.
I was able to ride pain-free, and ever since then I had been running, biking, swimming, and doing everything else that I did before that accident occurred. And I can't even begin to tell you what hip was fractured right now. And I'm just ending that 12-month window. Okay. The bottom line is, plants heal. Okay. I needed to have my bones healthy, and they were. They healed that quickly. And my orthopedic surgeon was blown away. In 30 years, you've never seen anybody heal like that. I can tell you why. Okay, last story, we'll shut it down. This is a personal story. I hope this will be inspirational for you. This is my younger brother, Will. And we believe that my younger brother was born with a heart defect that did not manifest itself until he was in his 40s. He ended up having a massive stroke. They took him to the Mayo Clinic in Scottsdale, and they did a workup on him. It turned out that he had ventricular aneurysm, which is an outpouching in one of the ventricles in your heart, which caused the clotting of blood, and that caused all his issues. So he had an implantable defibrillator pacemaker, he's on Coumadin and all these other meds, he's in and out of hospitals. So I got a call about 2.5 years ago. I was lecturing in South Carolina that my brother had gone into complete cardiac arrest. And they were shocking him to try to revive him because his implantable defibrillator wasn't working. They eventually revived him, got into the hospital at the Mayo Clinic, and if you're a healthcare provider, his heart was so shot that his ejection fraction was only 18%. So basically his heart was quivering. They immediately put him on the heart transplant list. And there he lay literally flat in bed for about 2, almost 3 months, waiting for a heart. And unfortunately, one never showed. And so what they do at that point with you, because his heart was feeling so bad that he wasn't perfusing his other organs and all his other organs were shutting down, is they do open heart surgery on you and they put a pump in your heart, called an LVAD, or left ventricular assist device. And that acts as a bridge to get you to a transplantable heart. Well, that was the next procedure for him, but he wasn't going to have anything to do with it. I remember walking into the room after they told him that that's what they were going to do, and he was crying, and basically said, I'm not doing this. I'm done. You know, I'm tired of being a pain cushion. I'm tired of being in and out of hospitals. I'm finished. And I'm like, no, you're not. And you have a wife to live for. You have a son to live for. And one day, you're going to be the recipient of a heart that a family lost a loved one for. You're going to be carrying on a legacy for a family. Now, you have a story to tell. You just don't know what it looks like, and you can't shut the book. Now, I can't mention some of the other words I used in the room. Suffice it to say, he went through that procedure. And this was my brother immediately post-op. I know it's a little hard to see the lighting. It's a little bit fuzzy. This is him right after the pump was put in. And, you know, I know all these things that are on the IV pole over here. They're called pressors, dobutamine, dopamine, all this stuff. I know all that stuff. But you know what? When you're on the other side of that, and you're either the patient or the family, that's a scary place to be. And I've never been there before. I've always been the provider. So anyway, that was him immediately post-op. And this is my brother, I think, about 2 or 3 weeks after that pump was put in his heart. So the reason why I share this with you guys tonight is for a couple of things. For me, number one, as a reminder to me as a physician of why I went into medicine and how precious life is. Your healthcare providers, we're squeezed so hard today, we're just peons. And we're just told what to do, when to do it, and there's no relationship with the patient anymore, and that's too bad. So it's a reminder to me of why I originally went into medicine many, many years ago. The reason why I share this intimate story, personal story with you guys, is the fact that, you know what, my brother really didn't have a choice. You know, he didn't have a choice between this and that. My brother was dealt a bad hand right from the beginning. Okay? I would dare say that almost every single one of us in this room, no matter what your health journey looks like, you still have this choice. You have the choice to engage in this and maybe avoid the scalpel. You have a choice to engage in this and maybe not be on multiple medications the older you get. Okay? The choice is yours. So what happened to my brother? So 3 months after he got that pump put in his heart, he got the big call that there was a heart available for him. And so he got his heart transplant, and this is us celebrating about a year, and that's my year after that, that's my brother right there. It's pretty cool. Okay? I think the best part of this picture is my mom.
Yeah.
She's like so stoked right now. Like, oh my gosh, it's old. But again, you know, it's come full circle. My brother is now arranging to meet the people that he got the heart from, the family. Okay, this is the guy who's going to shut the book down. Okay? And I understand that. You know, you might be frustrated. You might be somebody who's been through this system and you're tired of it. Don't ever give up. Don't ever give up. So bottom line is, life doesn't get better by chance. It gets better by change. So what will be a simple change for you to think about tonight when you leave? You know, maybe it's eating more fruits and veggies. Maybe it's starting an exercise program or being more consistent with it, drinking more water. Whatever it is that you do, please understand, and we have talked a lot about this tonight for darn good reason. That on the left is not a magic bullet. Okay, but what it is a catalyst backed by science. There isn't a single aspect of human physiology that's not going to benefit by putting that kind of nutrition in your body. If you're an athlete, I've explained that to you tonight. If you have broken bones, I've explained that to you. I could go on for hours about what this will do for you. Okay? Think about it. It'll be a different experience for every single person in this room based on your own unique physiologic demands. So that's why I love being with this company. This is a forward-thinking company unlike any other company in the world. And it's allowed me to at least hopefully shed some information to you guys and hopefully inspire you to make some changes. You know, I'm not here to sell you anything. What you do with this information is totally up to you. But I hope you lean up against this information, because this is coming from a Harvard-educated doctor who had no nutrition education. And God knows I wish I had. It would change the way I practice medicine. Okay? But lean against this information, because think about what this will do for you. Think about, you know, what this will do for your family, and then think about the people around you. You know, you can be a beacon of hope for them. Okay? You really can be. Because this is it. Just like my brother, you saw in that video when that had the IV pole, and he was just put one small foot in front of the other. Those little steps he took years ago are now gigantic. That's all you have to do. Right? So think about that here tonight. Because just like my brother had a story to tell, so do you. But you can't tell a good, long story if you don't have your health. So I'm not offering a miracle tonight to you guys, just hopefully inspiring you to make some changes. And I'm just offering you some hope. And I hope that lays on you pretty good. So thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Phillips. Thank you, Jamie, for putting all this on. And just to piggyback off of this wonderful presentation, of course, share this story, share your stories. My personal story is